Greetings, Cornerstone family. It's good to be back with you again. I want to take a break this evening from our Elijah study and just share some other things that I've been reading on today, and just frankly, things that have just been on my mind today, on my heart a little bit. So as I kind of work through some texts of Scripture, I got to thinking about a passage that I read in Philippians. Now, we studied Philippians not too terribly long ago and worked our way through the entire book, but I want to go back and look at something in chapter 4 of Philippians here. And it's going to be fairly brief, but I just want to say a few things to us tonight to get us thinking about how we live together and work together as a family. In Philippians, you remember Paul is in prison, and as he writes the book, as he writes this letter to the Philippian church, they have assisted him in his stay in prison. When you were in prison in the Roman world, the prison didn't provide anything for you. They didn't give you food, they didn't give you clothing, they just locked you up, and you had to depend on family and friends to take care of you, which made it really tough if you were on your own. And so Paul had people who would minister to him while he was imprisoned and otherwise, and the Philippian church was a big part of that. And he depended on them for a financial support that they gave to him and other types of help. And so as we come to chapter 4, we see Paul say a couple of things that are really interesting. Now, there's two major truths right here off the bat that I just want to point out to us tonight and talk about for a few minutes. But Paul's been sharing about how he's thankful that they've been able to show this concern for him. In verse 10, he says, I know you've always been concerned for me, but you didn't really have the chance to help me out. Not that I was ever in need, for I've learned to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I've learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. Now, that's the first major truth. You've got this notion in verse 13 that Christ is all sufficient for everything that we need. And that's refreshing because I don't know about you, but I don't always feel as equipped as I think I should, or I don't always feel as empowered maybe as I think I should. I don't always feel as adequate as I think I would like to be. But we have the assurance of Scripture that we can do everything that Christ gives us to do because He's the one who strengthens us to do it. Now, we love that. I mean, if you ask a lot of people their favorite verse in Scripture, you're going to get this verse a fair bit of the time. And we love it because it's very individualistic. It's me and Jesus alone against the world, and I don't need anybody else. And we love that as Americans. But the second great truth is in the next verse. And it's almost like those dual truths of loving God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself. And just when you think it's okay just to be alone with you and God all the time, Jesus throws that second one in. You have to love your neighbor as yourself as well. And right here, as soon as we start thinking in an individualistic way, Paul comes along with his second truth in verse 14, where he says, even so, you have done well to share with me in my present difficulty. Now, I have the New Living pulled up here, and I didn't intend to do that because that was a text I was reading earlier. But in the New American Standard, he says, nevertheless, you've done well to share with me in my affliction. Now, let me say a couple of things about this text, verse 14. The second truth is the absolute necessity of partnering together in life and in the gospel mission. And that's what we see. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Nevertheless, it's really good that you help me out and partner together with me in this suffering. The verse reads like this sharing with Paul translates the word sun koinonia. Now, you know the word koinonia. If you know any Greek, you've been taught that means to have fellowship, but it's more than just hanging out together. It's about having life together. And the little prefix soon means together. So it's almost a repetitive type of thing. We're having fellowship together with, and in this case, Paul says, you're sharing with me, partnering with me in my affliction. suffering, different translations will say. But the word here is thlipsis, which is the word that's often translated tribulation. It's the word that we translate tribulation all throughout the book of Revelation. So this is serious stuff. So the question I guess I have for us is, with whom have we partnered together in terms of suffering for the sake of the gospel? I think we can learn a lot about our relationships with the larger family of God and with one another by answering that question. Think about the disciples' relationship with Jesus. When Jesus was arrested, what happened to the rest of the disciples? They scattered. Peter was following at a distance, we read in Luke 22:54. In Matthew 26:56 through 58, all this has taken place to fill the scriptures of the prophets. Then all the disciples left him and fled. And so Peter, again, it says in the next verse, was following at a distance so he could see the outcome but not be associated with Jesus. And so the disciples at this point were unwilling to suffer with Jesus. They had partnered with him up to a point, but that partnership stopped when it came to real suffering. And so I just want to offer three really quick truths tonight that I think speak to this. And again, just something I was studying on today and kind of felt like I wanted to share. The first thing I would say about this is that we partner together in suffering when we share life's heartaches together. This is the attitude that Paul had toward the churches that he served and worked with. In 2 Corinthians 7:2 and 3, where they've kind of been told some things about Paul that they believed, and so Paul's getting some opposition from the Corinthian church that he'd been so close with. And he says, make room for us in your hearts. We wronged no one. We corrupted no one. We took advantage of no one. I do not speak to condemn you, for I have said before that you are in our hearts to die together and to live together. And I love that last phrase. Paul says, look, we're committed to you, to dying together and living together. In other words, we're going to die together if that's what sharing the gospel costs us. We'll do it together, and we're going to live together in terms of just sharing life. And as church members, that's kind of what we've committed to do. We've committed to suffering together. And that means a couple of things. It means not only are we willing to suffer along with other people, we're not going to be so detached from others that we insulate ourselves from their pain. That's a pretty big price to pay because most of us we're inundated with the world's pain. We see it on the news. We see things every day that could literally break our hearts, just watching things on the news and the suffering of people in the world. And so we carry those things with us a lot of times. And then there's our own hurts and pains from life that we carry along. And so, when we encounter the suffering of others, our tendency sometimes is just, I don't have the emotional energy for that. And we don't always, but we can't always insulate ourselves from the suffering of others either. We have to open our lives to the suffering of others. And then the flip side of that truth is that we have to open our lives to allow others to suffer with us. In other words, we can't be so distant from others that there's no shared suffering that's possible. And sometimes that's more our tendency. We don't want to tell others what's going on in our lives. We don't want to sound like we're complaining, or we don't want to make others think that we're not strong, whatever it may be. But we just don't open our lives up to allow others to suffer with us. We don't want to inconvenience others. That's not the Christian life that God's called us to live. So we have to open ourselves up to the suffering of others and open ourselves up to allow others to suffer with us. And we're going to be on the giving and receiving end of that at various times in our lives. This is the attitude of the body that Paul says we're to have for one another. In 1 Corinthians 12, really the primary place where he teaches this truth, he says that God has so composed the body so that there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. And if one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. If one member is honored, all the members are rejoicing with it. Now you are Christ's body and individually members of it. So you get that dual truth again, that we're individuals. We're going to stand before God as individuals and answer for our lives to God on our own. But we don't live on our own. We are Christ's body individually. We're members of it. So we're individuals, but we're inextricably connected together. So that's the first major truth here. We partner together in suffering when we share life's heartaches together. I think most of you have been around long enough to know that. The second thing I just wanted to share here is that we partner together in suffering by continuing to preach the gospel no matter the consequences. This is what the Philippians were doing, really. They're partnering with Paul in ministry, not just in providing comfort. They're sending him a financial gift to help supply his needs while he's in prison. It may be that they weren't the only ones doing that, but Paul recognizes it also as a partnering together in ministry, because they're providing financial support for him, allows him to go to other churches and share the gospel and devote his full time to ministry rather than having to work all the time and only getting to minister on the side. And so there's a partnering together, because think about this, the Philippians sacrificed themselves to provide for Paul. And you and I live in a situation where we have resources that many of our brothers and sisters in other parts of the world don't have. And that brings me to the third point, which is this: we partner together in suffering by giving physical aid to God's people who are suffering. Now, this may mean visiting prisoners, which is what the context is here. But it also may just mean that we don't forget the suffering church around the world, and we help support them in any way that we can. Some of you, for example, give me some money from time to time, and we send that money to Moldova. We're helping them in ministry because they're taking that money and using it to do ministry there, and just providing physical things for people that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So that having some single moms stay at the Hope House, or providing for those kids, those are things that they do with this money, and we've effectively become partners with them in doing ministry. But it also means that we're aware of their suffering. We're aware of the things that they are doing without as they try to do ministry, and we try to help meet those needs. So I was just reading something today, and the person I was reading asked this question from Philippians 4:14: with whom have you partnered in suffering in their afflictions? And the question just struck me, because I just thought to myself, I wonder at times if we really see one another that way, if we really see the church that way, as a family who's decided to partner together to share life's pain as well as life's joys. That's part of what it means to be part of a church family. And so I just want to share that with you a little bit, just something on my mind. I think Paul has a lot to say to us here. Maybe go read that text a little bit and get it in context, but maybe ask yourself the question, are you close enough with anyone that you actually suffer with them? And I'm not talking about family. I'm talking about ministry partners here. Are you close enough with anyone in the body so that they know when you hurt and you know when they hurt? Do you have people that you're working to alleviate their suffering by helping them in various ways, whether it's physical needs or whether it's emotional suffering or spiritual needs, that kind of thing? With whom have you partnered together? We are not to go through life as islands, isolated. We are to go through life together as God's people. So I hope this is something that challenges you. It challenged me when I heard it, and I think in a way it's a helpful reminder to us of where we need to be as a church family. So that's all I'm going to say today. I love you, church. Look forward to seeing you all again in the coming days. Keep praying for one another. Had some contact with Matt Ayers today. He's doing well, bouncing back. We have another couple of folks in the church that just need prayers for physical needs. Remember Brother Dennis Cox. He's going to be preaching for you Sunday. Kara and I will be out of town for just 3 or 4 days. And so be here to support Brother Dennis. Pray for him. And he's got 2 services to do. So that's a big load. So pray for Brother Dennis. But God bless Cornerstone. I look forward to seeing you soon, and love you. We'll see you then.